right. This is Jackie, and I'm here talking with Mixol. Um, you,
Hi, I'm
you,
Mixol.
yeah, you recently released your second single, Mixologist, off of your debut EP. How does the song Mixologist showcase your sound?
I think it's a bit of game game music, that sort of stuff, but I think it's pretty interesting. It's still I'm talking nonsense in the lyrics and I just showcase myself. Sometimes I'm living with the monster lives in me and she is feed with some of my ambitions or some of jealousy or extreme love and hate, that sort of stuff. Yeah, I don't know if the content is so naive, but I think it's sort of interesting, so I wrote the song. Yeah.
I feel like the song sort of hints about the pitfalls of getting older, and I think that that's
Yeah.
something as especially females we kind of are taught to fear. Just
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's
for me.
really tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially like in the music industry, um I think my biggest regret or probably not the regret, but in the music industry, I really want to be a genius, debuted on 17 years old and become famous and then everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, she's a genius." And yeah, cuz I'm 24 right now, so I'm kind of like, is this like too old to release my songs or kind of things like that. And what's the most interesting thing was like last year I told two of my friends we we became friends since we were in middle schools. So at the time I told them like, "Hey, I'm gonna release songs pretty soon." And they're like, "Hmm, it's I w it's time because when you were in middle school, you said, 'Oh, I'm gonna go to die,' and when I'm like 20 when I'm like 30 years old." And I was like, "Did I say that?" Probably I read too much about 27 Club that um, too much stories about 27 Club, so I just wanted to be cool. And yeah, so I wrote her line into my lyrics. I thought that's pretty interesting too. Yeah.
Yeah, that the 27 Club, especially for musicians, is definitely. I mean, I'd like to say thankfully, I don't think it's that prevalent anymore. I hope, but I can imagine that
Mm,
anyone's
I
middle school
see.
self, like, that seems a
Yeah.
very long time away.
Yeah, yeah.
Who came up with the treatment for the track's lyric video?
Um, I edited that video and I have two animators. They're super they're just oh my god, they're just creating art. And I said like I thought I'm Louvre when I'm every time I check out our group chat. I was like, yeah, I love that. I love their animation and they're great female artists. And I basically just put everything together and me and my video creator, she's also really nice. And yeah, because I love watching cult films or like Eastern European, that sort of stuff. And I just love them. So I just created it and used the subtitles of Japanese to made it more more creepy, like creepier or more special. Cause yeah,
I
I
think
think
there's
that's really
definitely
cool.
that those undertones of that video. For this song, Mixologist, how was that song born lyrically? Did it start with the bridge, a lyric, a riff? How did it come about?
I think it started with the very beginning. It's the Japanese part of "Ishiki kowashite mo ii no," the very, very beginning. I think it's the song, just popped up out of nowhere. I think I was just it was just like I was writing a journal, so I just put a lot of my emotions there, and yeah. So for this song, compared to my other songs, even though I just started writing English lyrics, so I think, but especially for this song, I asked my friends like a lot of times for like, do you think that this sounds like a 3-year he's 3 years old is right who wrote this? And she's like, "No, no, no, you're fine." And it was like, I'm still I'm still being nervous about the lyrics. But yeah, since the song was the title Mixologist is actually not from my name. It came from my friend's dream. It's a dream about, the earth is conquered by aliens, so we have to drink lemonade to like be divided in two parts, that whether we will be working for aliens or we will be traveling like into the space to explore more for the aliens. Basically, we're just all working for aliens. And at the very end of that dream, my friend like picked up his phone, and there's letters, like letters showing up on that screen, and it says mixologist. So I thought that's a really cool dream. I've never had a dream that told me its title, and it was like, I'm gonna borrow this idea and create it in more, my style stuff. So I think the lyrics just came from my emotions, because I think I'm a highly emotion driven person, so I just wrote my fear and, yeah, fear of getting old, fear of, peer pressure. Like, a lot of artists are debuted in their early 20s, or like even when they're 17 or 18, they were debuted and they're all genius, and I really want to be one of them. That sort of, some fear about getting old, or how how could I like sit with myself, or that sort of stuff.
I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves more than other people, for sure.
Yeah.
Your first
Yeah.
single, "We Jump," our Carnival, it sounds to me, sonically, uh, on the same wavelength of, like, Fiona Apple. Is she one of your
Oh, thank you
musical
so much.
influences?
Yes, absolutely,
That's
yes. I
nice.
Yes, I love Bjork, I love Kate Bush, I love Fiona Apple. Yeah, those are my mothers of creations. So I just
Well, those are some
yeah.
good ones. If you're gonna pull inspiration, absolutely keep pulling from them. That to me, like, I listened
Yeah.
to it a few times and then I watched your video and I was like, this sounds so reminiscent. And I grew up on Fiona Apple, so I'm allowed to say that.
Oh my god. That's so nice. 'Cause I didn't know Fiona Apple until probably I was 21, and then I just fell in love with her. It was just like, "Oh my gosh." I
She's so
love
good. Would you say
Yeah.
that your songwriting is more autobiographical or referential?
I think autobiographical for me. Yeah, 'cause, I'm sorry, yeah, could you please explain more about, like, referential of
Sure.
songwriting?
Autobiographical, you were saying before that you were writing in your journals, and so your songs,
Yeah,
it makes sense that they're about you versus about other referring to other people. So that makes sense.
I see. I
Yeah.
see, but I think, for now, it's more autobiographical, but sometimes I do write songs, especially like We Jump Our Carnival, this sort of songs that I have like um some things that I want to write about. For example, on this is in the society, I feel something and I write for female. Yeah, at that time I think it's highly referential, because I'm thinking about like, how should this story like going on, or how should I arrange my sound with the lyrics, and it doesn't sound weird to other person, and other person could feel like more powerful, or could feel the empowerment in my songs. So yeah. I think
That
it depends on
well,
the yeah.
and that sort of goes off of my next question. When you write, are you trying to empower yourself, empower others, or both?
I think it's both. I have some songs that are more like, because 'cause I'm a huge fan of manifestation. Some songs that are, I'm just encouraging myself to, cause yeah, I think my biggest, for example, like, I think my biggest fear is, um not getting famous until I'm 30 years old, which I know is really toxic, but only just for myself. And yeah, so I would put, really empowering lyrics in the song. So every time I sing it, I could feel like, oh, I'm conquering the world. I'm getting what I want. And yeah, other times for example, We Jump Our Carnival or the song that will be soon released in my EP. I think they're just more for other people and also for myself because I'm one of females. So, yeah, when I'm saying writing for others, I think for now, at this point, I think I'm writing for women. So, yeah. So I think it's both.
Your work really does seem to be a mix of many different influences. And I was reading about sort
Yes.
of, you moved from Hong Kong to the States for school and back. How
Yeah.
how do you go about editing all of those sort of different influences into your sound?
I think I was born and raised in Beijing until I was 18, and then I moved to Boston, and then I moved to Tokyo. I think I'm the type of person who loves traveling, who loves travel. Yeah, especially like immerse myself into different cultures. I think that's really cool. And I think for for now, I'm trying my best to write lyrics in English. That's the biggest difference, with myself 5 years ago. Because at that time, I only write songs, in Chinese, Mandarin, and especially, like, the influences from J-pop or, you know, how how do I use Japanese into my lyrics? Or how do I combine English and Chinese and Japanese at the same time in my song? I think that's pretty interesting because I think, different languages has its flow. So when I'm writing songs in English or versus it's very different when I'm writing songs in English or when I'm writing songs in Japanese or Chinese, because their flows are different. So I would put more rhythmic, paragraphs to Japanese, or if I wanna say something more or if I wanna say something nonsense and I feel comfortable with that, I would use Chinese, and for my main lyrics, I'm using English. So I think, like, different collision of, cultures, I think that's really cool. And also, like, um, my influences are from different cultures, Fiona Apple or J-pop or C-pop, that stuff.
It's
Yeah.
got to be a challenge for sure. On
Yeah.
June 15th. In terms of your social media use, how do you balance sharing and sort of advertising that new music and then being just an authentic, real person?
I think for me, I could be both at this point because I'm still like introducing people who I am, and I don't have that many followers, which is, just
Yet.
an
Yet.
opening for my career. Yeah. So I think I could be both. I'm just sharing music because I'm doing the music that I love, and um also, I'm making a game, like web page game, which is pretty cool. I'm doing what I love. So I think when I'm sharing it, it's yeah, pretty authentic for me because I'm just telling how I feel in my songs. So I'm just like I could share them as if I could post, Instagram or TikTok just like as if I'm posting for myself, for my friends, like, "Hey, people, like, watch this or listen to this." I think it's yeah, I could be authentic and share my music
Tell
at the
me
same time.
tell me a little bit more about this game you're working on.
Yeah, I'm making a web page game. Like my inspiration came from, I one day I just remembered when because I was born in 2001. I remember before we had iPhone, we we look at shampoo ingredients when we were in the restrooms, back in the
Very
old
true.
days, or we bring magazines, mangas when we were in the bathroom. So I was like maybe I could make a game that connects my music to my world build, and people could play it like when it just doesn't take that long. So the game is pretty easy, so they could play it when they just back from work or in the restroom. That's fine. I love that. So yeah, and especially I have a friend. She's also a really good animator and game content creator. So she just created the game for me, and also she brought her friend who is also a great, game coding. That girl's really into game coding and stuff. So I was like, oh, we had a team, yay! So yeah, basically that's a game that connects three of my pre-release singles, so people could solve the first question. The first is just like as if you're a witch and you're mix those ingredients into a soup, and then you collect three correct ingredient combinations, and then depends on the combination that you got, you could get into three different worlds. And those worlds are, We Jump Our Carnival, Bee Boo Bee Boo, and Mixologist. And yeah, people could listening to my music while playing that game and solve some puzzles. Not really puzzles, but they could know more about the background story. So yeah.
Very creative.
That's
I love that.
Thank you.
What's up
Thank
next
you.
for you? What's the rest of 2026 look like for you?
The rest of 2026, I will be working. I really want to, yeah, probably after releasing my EP, and then we'll see. And probably I'll be moving back to the States if I got lucky, or if I got a little bit something on the internet. And then we'll see. I love touring. I love performing in front of people, and I'll be writing more songs, writing more better songs.
Excellent.
And yeah.
Well, your EP, The Fool, comes out June 15th. Thank you so much, Mixel. I hope you have a great evening or